Hello everyone, my name is Amy Tan. I wanted to make this video to talk about my new book, The Opposite of Fate. I wouldn't necessarily call this an autobiography or a memoir, but more of a collection of stories about my life. It covers many details of my personal life, from how my parents met to how I formed a rock band, but doesn't necessarily chronicle my life in the traditional autobiographical sense. And so I like to think of it more like a book of musings. The writing samples in this book come from a variety of settings and times in my life. The reason I included such different writing pieces into the same book was because of each piece explained a part of who I am. So in the process of compiling them together, it helped me find out who I am as a person. The connection that they share goes even deeper than that. I realized that my purpose for writing was to answer the questions that I have been asking myself since childhood. The questions that revolved around fate and destiny and luck, control over one's life. Everything I wrote seemed to keep going back and searching for the answers to questions about fate and its opposites. Fate acting as a mindless force that pushed forward predetermined events and its opposites. Choice, hope, chance, freedom, fought back. They were so important to who I became as a writer. I felt I had no other option but to write about them, and that became my purpose for this book. It was to show others the deep and lasting impact that the idea of fate had on me, how I spent my life. And my writing career trying to figure it all out. After my book was published, I realized that when reading it, a lot of people initially had trouble getting used to it. I knew when I was writing the book that it was different. It is not a traditional story about someone's life, mostly because it isn't chronological, and that can be confusing. I wanted to put the stories together based on their underlying similarities and meanings, not by what time period they happened. In this book, I am not trying to narrate the events of my life for the hell of it, but instead, I was using these events to show the lessons they brought. In the section, American Circumstances and Chinese Character, I included pieces that dealt with culture and my journey in balancing the two cultures I lived with. I made sure not to include a topic that was out of place like my Lyme disease, which didn't really teach me anything about culture. The organization I set for the book was meant to help the sections connect with themselves. Another thing that I did, not in the traditional way, was use a wide variety and a diverse set of writing pieces for the book. I touched upon the subject earlier, and the answer is simple. I wanted people to know just how important the theme of fate was. It was so essential that it was seen in literally everything I wrote, from poems to speeches. It highlighted how the question of fate kept popping up throughout my life and throughout my writing. Whether it was in a direct or subtle manner. Although the differences in the writing from other autobiographies and memoirs seemed to pop out, the readers would be able to clearly identify how fate was common among everything in my life.